Hey Hunter, I've changed some of your equipment. Ooh, interesting. What's changed? Things have changed? Yeah, you just told me that they did. I don't think I said that. Okay, whatever you say then. Oh, Hunter, before you go, I've changed some of your equipment. Is this a joke? Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, with Title Update 1, we had a bunch of changes come to Monster Hunter Wilds. A lot of them were told to us, we knew they were coming, some were nice little surprises, but there were also some full-on proper important changes to meaningful skills in the game that were not announced, weren't documented, and haven't really been talked about by the developers since either. We've talked about this various times in a more general sense since the update came out, with information about maximum might being extremely important to a lot of meta builds, like our greatsword build from Josh ages ago where he talked about these changes, or changes to skills like Flayer or convert element, which proc bonus damage but have hidden conditions that make them only activate on certain attacks, and the actual list of attacks for this has changed in the update as well, which we initially discussed in our dual blades build video, as it makes a genuine difference for that weapon even for meta setups. But today we're going to just go over all of the changes to these in detail, just for the sake of keeping them in one place rather than just as a part of multiple different unrelated videos. Starting off then, the big one popping up in Title Update 1 is Maximum Might. The way that this worked before Title Update was pretty funky. The description of the skill is up to 30% bonus affinity when at maximum ranks when you have maintained full stamina for a short period. In reality, this bonus persisted even after you went under maximum stamina, but with some hidden conditions. Specifically, there was a 2-second leeway timer, where if you happened to return to maximum stamina within that 2 seconds, the buff would not drop off of you. But this was a continuous additive timer, meaning that if you were to go under maximum stamina for 1 second and then fill it back up, maximum might would stay active. But if you then did that a second time, maximum might would deactivate. There was no real way to reset this leeway timer, so that meant for any weapon that had stamina consuming attacks as part of the regular playstyle, it was pretty unreliable, and for even the weapons that didn't, it meant that you would just drop it occasionally if you roll enough to have it drop. And this led to a few weapon types building around the Guardian Fulgur Anjanath 2-set bonus as a result, for the extra maximum stamina to keep the skill active more consistently, because the 30% affinity for maximum might is such high value compared to most skills that it was worth making equipment choices around the 2-set bonus just to make maximum might consistent. And it's also worth mentioning while we're here that in order to have maximum might reactivated again after it is deactivated, you need to be at maximum stamina for 2 seconds straight. In the title update, some things changed, however. Maximum might's leeway mechanic is the main thing, and now the time that you can spend under maximum stamina does not add up together. It is no longer continuous across multiple instances, so you can dip under maximum stamina, and even if it takes you 1.9 seconds before you hit maximum stamina again, you will still keep the buff. It will never drop off. If you were to then do that again, exactly 1.9 seconds, it would still stay up. Whereas before the title update, once the time you spent under maximum stamina added up to 2 seconds total, you would lose the buff no matter what. So essentially what this does functionally is just make the skill way more consistent when you're using very small amounts of stamina. It means if you avoid dodging 2 or more times in a row, or if you avoid sprinting for more than about a second at a time, you can keep maximum might active permanently through the hunt with pretty much every weapon. Greatsword can now keep it up even through shoulder tackles. Hammer can technically do mighty charge slam without dropping maximum might as well, though the timing window is a bit tight to do so, and you also need 3 ranks of the focus skill. Sword and Shield doesn't drop maximum might from the entry back hop into Perfect Rush anymore either, which it did used to do, and this change essentially means that there is no weapon that requires Fulgur Anjanath 2-set bonus to enable maximum might as a skill. Some weapons still don't use maximum might because they just are way too stamina hungry anyways, or have a reason to care a bit less about affinity than other weapons, but the ones who do use it have almost all abandoned Fulgur Anjanath 2-set bonus, which was used for a lot of weapons previously. The only potential exception to this really is Hammer, where while you can do Mighty Charge Slam consistently within the safety window of maximum might if you have level 3 focus, it is, as mentioned before, quite a tight timing window to do that. And so especially with the consideration that you might want to reposition before letting go of the charge attack for Hammer, and because you obviously have other charge attacks in the moveset too that do consume stamina, Hammer is the only weapon where it's really worth still considering Fulgur Anjanath 2-set bonus for, and you don't necessarily need it for Hammer, it just makes it more comfortable. Overall, overall, what's important to take away from this one, if you're someone who normally uses maximum might without the set bonus, it will just feel a bit more comfortable to use in general. You will have it drop off less often from just rolling as you would in a fight, so it might result in slightly higher uptime on maximum might overall. If you are someone who was using the set bonus, your build may well need some updating, because you might not need that set bonus anymore, which means you might be able to fit some other better skills in exchange. And if you're using a weapon like Greatsword, where the main reason you wouldn't have been using maximum might before was the continuous additive timer effect, and that was an issue interacting with shoulder tackle for the weapon, but now you can consider actually using the skill to begin with, because you can shoulder tackle and return back to full stamina. That said, it's also worth mentioning while we're talking about it that there's been some rumblings in the Japanese player base, the Japanese speaking community, saying that they expect this to be fixed. They think this is a bug, whereas a lot of the English speaking community seems to think the opposite. They seem to think this is the way it was intended to be from the beginning, and they fixed it in the title update. So whether this is going to be changed again in the future, we don't know, but this is how it works right now, and it is better for the players that it does. The other main skill that I wanted to talk about today is sort of a collection of multiple of them because of what actually affects them. It's more of a tag for attacks that was changed behind the scenes, as confirmed by data miners. We've talked about it recently, but the damage bonus pop effects from the Flayer skill, the convert element skill, the Scorcher Rathlos set bonus, and then the new Whiteflame Torrent skill that's on Zoshia weapons, these all have attacks that are incapable of triggering them with each weapon. And this was a thing before the title update still, but the thing that has shifted here is that some of the attacks that previously didn't work with these skills now do work with these skills. So I'll have the full updated list of the attacks that do not work going by on the screen, the attacks that do not apply the bonuses from these skills. And to specify which ones have changed and are now functioning, for Longsword, Spirit Blade 3 and Jumping Spirit Blade 3 now function with these skills. For Sword and Shield, the leaping attack to start Perfect Rush, and then the final hits of Perfect Rush 3, now also function with these skills. For Dual Blades, the second Demon Flurry input and the third input of Blade Dance now work with these skills as well, which does make it much more applicable for this weapon. For Hammer, the Big Bang Finisher specifically now functions with these skills. For Lance, finishing Twin Thrust now works properly with the skills, which it didn't before. And then finally for Bow, regular arrows that hit a tracer shot will now work as well, whereas they didn't before. So all in all, the actual number of attacks that have changed and modified for this is relatively small, but it does make a surprising amount of difference, specifically for Dual Blades and Sword and Shield, more so than the others, I would say. And overall, the results of this is that for the weapons in question, Flayer, Convert Element, and then also of course Scorcher and now Whiteflame Torrent, especially used together, should all be relatively stronger than they would have been before the title update. Obviously, Whiteflame Torrent didn't exist before. The actual amount stronger, though, that these skills are, depends on the specific weapon that you're using, but knowing what these changes are should help you make your own choices if you want to try messing around with the skills again for yourself. That's pretty much it for today then, everyone. It's only a couple of these major undocumented changes when it comes to skills, but they do have a chance of being quite impactful depending on your weapon or your playstyle, so I hope this helps. If you find any other changes that haven't been mentioned ahead of time by the devs, feel free to leave them in the comments down below to help spread the information even further to your fellow hunters, and I hope this helps you all out in your continued time in Monster Hunter Wilds. Like if you liked the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.